have a story to share with you. It's called Counting Birds, the idea that helps save our feathered friends. And it's written by Heidi E.Y. Stemple, illustrated by Clover Robin. A fun name, huh? Frank Chapman loved birds. He worked at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, creating exhibits about birds. He wrote books and magazine articles about birds. He studied bird habits and habitats. He read the research of John James Audubon, the most famous ornithologist of all time. Frank Chapman loved birds. In 1899, he began his own magazine called Bird Lore. Every 2 months, Bird Lore was published and read by other bird lovers. Around this time, Americans were starting to think about the natural world around them. First scientists and poets and then government leaders and finally more and more regular citizens were starting to talk about conservation. How could they better live in their world? How could they save the wilderness that was disappearing, the forests that were being cut down, the waterways that were being polluted, and the animals and birds that were being overhunted? But not everyone cared about conservation. On Christmas Day, sport hunters would gather, choose teams, and hold a bird competition. All day long, hunters looked for birds. Large birds, small birds, all birds were game. By the end of the day, the birds were counted. The winning team was the side that had shot and killed the most birds. Frank Chapman did not love this tradition. In the pages of his magazine, he set out to stop it. Now Bird Lore proposes a new kind of Christmas-side hunt in the form of a Christmas bird census, and we hope that our readers who have the opportunity will aid us in making it a success by spending a portion of Christmas Day with the birds and sending a report of their hunt to Bird Lore before they retire that night. Count them, he proposed, but don't kill them. That first year on Christmas Day, 1900, 27 birdwatchers in 25 locations from Connecticut to California counted common loons and killdeer, winter wrens, and red-winged blackbirds all across the country. They observed hermit thrushes, barred owls, Carolina chickadees, fish crows, turkey vultures, spotted and canyon towhees, and all Bird Lore proudly reported close to 18,500 birds from 89 different species. Not one bird was killed. Barred owl, fish crow, American goldfinch, eastern bluebird, red-winged blackbird, purple finch, killdeer, Carolina chickadee, winter wren, turkey vulture, hermit thrush, common loon. That first bird count was not the last. Every year in December, more people join the count, and every year more areas are added, and every year more and more birds are counted in every corner of the United States, as well as in Canada, Mexico, and Colombia. Other counts happen all over the world. The owlers are the first ones into the field. They climb out of their warm beds at midnight and call down owls in the dark. By the light of the moon, they raise their hands to their mouths and whistle. They use recordings of real owls to hoot. They wait and listen, and when an owl calls back, the owlers mark their maps and move on to the next spot. And when the sun starts to rise, so do fresh birders who arrive to take over. Some owlers say goodnight and some keep counting. All day long, groups observe and take notes in their count circles. Sandwich terns and song sparrows, creepers, thrashers, buffleheads, bryants, And Bob White's all birds are welcome. Not all bird watchers are in the field. Some count the birds that visit their backyard feeders. All birders are welcome. At the end of the day, the birders collect their notes and add their numbers, and later, the National Audubon Society will compile all the data and learn many things. How climate change affects bird populations, which species are in trouble, and what areas need conservation help. The birders know this is important for science, but that night, what is really important are their stories. Who found the most owls? Which rare birds are spotted? What records were broken? The Audubon Christmas bird count has become the longest-running citizen science project and wildlife census in the world. Everyone wins. The birders, the birds, science. And all this because Frank Chapman loved birds. A little bit more about Frank Chapman. Frank Michler Chapman was born in 1864 and died in 1945. He was a self-taught ornithologist. He was the associate curator of mammals and birds before becoming the curator of birds in 1908 at the American Museum of Natural History. His magazine, Bird Lore, eventually became Audubon Magazine, which is still published to this day. You too can be involved in a bird count, and you don't have to wait for Christmas or that season. You can do a bird count in your backyard, and we'll talk more about that. But I wanted to make sure to say thank you for listening to Counting Birds, the idea that helped save our feathered friends.